Right, lads, we're back for another week. It's obviously a different role for me. I'm joined by two-time All-Ireland club and county champion, Ger Brennan. One of them All-Ireland medals should be mine, I'd say, but we won't talk about that. How's the form, Ger? How are you getting on?
Not too bad, Enda, not too bad. Mid-term break there, so when the kids is off school and
The joys.
putting in a bit of a shift at home. We've a big game over in UCD then in a couple of hours. Our senior ladies footballers are in the round 2 of the O'Connor Cup against TU Dublin. Must-win game.
Okay.
So that's the Sigerson equivalent for our ladies. So
what's the story with that round 2? How many? I know I was actually talking to Tony Dunn actually yesterday, and he was saying he's about the Sigerson, and they've worked it quite well this year in terms of the structure. How do the women work? What way does it work there?
Somewhat similar. There's a backdoor scenario. Everyone gets at least 2 games, so you get 2 meaningful games. We've lost our first game against a very strong DCU team last week, and if we lose tonight, we're under pressure. We'll be gone.
Okay.
So you've 2 chances to progress to the knockout stages, basically. So if you can't win one of the 2 games, well then, you're not good enough to progress this year, you know.
And just Joe, just touching on that, Joe, your role. Obviously, I'm not sure. Obviously, you're involved with UCD. What's your job title? We'll say. Or what's that involved?
Yeah. So it's your kind of head of Gaelic games. Ultimately, you're looking to add value to the student experience through participation in Gaelic games, whether it's at elite level, developmental, recreation level, international level, that we've opportunities for all sorts of sizes and shapes and ethnicities, and we give people an opportunity to become part of the UCD GA family and by extension the wider GA family. So the club motto that we developed over the last number of years, and it's underneath our UCD crest, is UCD GA, a home away from home, where guys and ladies are feel very quickly that they are part of something, that they are valued, and that in the biggest university campus on the island with just about 35,000 students, 5,000 or 6,000 staff, that they can find a place that they can call home and feel supported very, very quickly. So that's always the bigger picture in all GA clubs, Enda. So again, at the elite end, you'd like to win, but it doesn't happen every year. But that if you can leave a student feeling that they are valued and that they have improved or enhanced their learning experience on campus through membership of the club, well, that's the job done, you know. You're also a social worker, guidance counsellor, pumping footballs, washing jerseys, water bottles, you name it. All sorts of jobs have to be done, you know.
Ashley has a bit more washing, Sophia.
She's yeah. I won't mention that.
And so what's your, year-round journey? Like, what you're on about recruitment there? How do you recruit, or how does that work exactly?
So there's a scholarship opportunities for incoming lads and ladies coming into the university from 6th year in school, and then there would be a graduate sports scholarship as well, which would be for, again, young lads or ladies who are looking to do a master's program of sorts, where we can offer them, we can make contributions towards the cost of their fees, but probably more so in the whole area of academic monitoring, career guidance, whether it's 1st year or a guy in the 2nd year of a master's. We can help steer students in the right direction, teach them how to balance the demands of elite sport, as well as ensuring they're hitting their targets in the lecture hall, and that they're leaving the place a more well-rounded individual who contributes to society and to their home clubs and back to UCD as well. So,
obviously you've watched the Sigersons this year. What's the standard like, or what's any youngsters coming up that kind of caught your eye, or anything there?
I'd say the standards is probably lower this year, through just one of those years. The quality kind of ebbs and flows from season to season, depending on who might come into the university circuit. I suppose last year with UL, David Clifford was probably one of the standout guys. which you would have mentioned from a UCD point of view. Up front, two lovely Roscommon footballers, Dara Craig and Ben O'Carroll. They're two fellas to watch. Up and coming players on the under 20s. I think both of them were with Stroketown. I think Roscommon. They'll kill me. I got that wrong. They lost the county final last year by a point, but two great lads. Sorry, Ben is with St Bridges, I think, and Dara is with Stroketown. But they're certainly two fellas to watch from a UCD point of view. But now overall, the quality in terms of natural God-given ability was probably lesser than previous years. The commitment very much the same. The love that players have of the college competition continues to amaze me. There's a sense of freedom and camaraderie that exists in college competitions that you just don't get with intercounty. You certainly get it with home clubs, but the big difference between playing colleges and playing county or club is that you're putting on the jersey with 14 other lads, a panel of 30, 40 players from all over the islands of Ireland, which is a wonderful experience, and you're creating friends for life,
So, like, would you say, Ger, like the Sigerson football is more kind of open, as in it's not as defensive, or is that coming into it now as well? As you said, is it more free flowing? We'd say it's only for 2-3 months a season here. The coaches don't have them for a very long period of time. So is it like go out and just play ball here?
It is, in fairness, it inevitably ends up that way, despite management's best intentions to put a bit of a simple structure on it, to help players, given the lack of game time or training time they have with one another. It's a very the window before Christmas, you're playing probably 6 to 8 games before Christmas. The panel can change week to week depending on who's still involved in club championship. And then when you come to championship Sigerson after Christmas, it is obviously a bit more intense, a bit more at stake. You tend to have your strongest players available, but managing their training load is a challenge. So there's very little training actually done with college players because they're preserved. The only fellas that are trained hard are the guys that aren't on the county team, where they need that bit of a training stimulus. But it's about just keeping a simple game plan, let the lads go out and play, but there's a sense of, what would you call it, youthfulness and spontaneity that can be seen in college games that you don't see as much in elite club and certainly elite intercounty games.
What's your opinion with the preseason, Ger, in terms of the overlap there? As you said there, the difficulties, managing players. Obviously, county managers want them, Sigerson managers want them. Where do you fall on that?
So obviously yourself and people listening or watching have all gone through the college system. It's quite demanding if you're from a decent club and you're on a minor 21s or 20s or a senior panel are trying to push in. So it is demanding. So those demands are still there. I think, certainly from a college point of view, I'm talking to some of my own colleagues from other universities, we don't train the elite players at all. It's very much skills based, small bit of tactics, but like it's very, very very easy in terms of physical demands in the body, because we're conscious of how hard they're being pushed by their county managers. I think county managers, new management coming in from counties who are trying to push up the ladder, and they're under pressure. They want their pound of flesh. They want the better players playing. So I can appreciate where they're coming from. I think there's a real simple and easy fix to lessen the load for these elite players, and that would be removing the preseason competitions, the Born Cups of this world. As we see, the integrity of these competitions in the 4 provinces across both codes has been brought into disrepute on numerous occasions, and it's just something that I guess provincial councils are trying to hold on for, probably financial or traditional reasons, historical reasons, but they're dead, and if they could just bury them, the sooner the better.
I tend to agree there, but right, just tipping on or touching on, Ger, we say, just going through your career, right? Obviously, when I came to Dublin, when I joined Vincents, like I was probably ignorant as a culture. I was probably ignorant of the fact that obviously I grew up in a rural setting. Football was on my only choice. Smirking there now, the culture in me. But but obviously you grew up in a different setting. So just give I suppose the kind of country viewers a kind of taste of what inner city Dublin was like growing up and the pitfalls you could have fallen into and the choice in terms of obviously you picked GA in the end, but I know you love soccer, you had played a bit of rugby, am I right in saying that?
Yeah.
So like what was that like?
Well, I grew up just in Sinna Place. Anyone coming to Croke Park, they'll be familiar with, say, the Big Tree or the Old Triangle Pub. As you're coming up Gardner Street towards Dorset Street, the Old Triangle Pub is in the right-hand corner. If you go through that junction, that's my road. So
good pint of Guinness.
Yeah, great spot, lovely Guinness. So that's where I learned to play, a bit of soccer and Gaelic and hurling on the road and hitting balls over cars. Avoiding cars, and it was mad really. You didn't know any different, to be honest, so it was just normal to you, and we just played a bit of everything, to be honest. And a lot of challenges there. Go on.
When did you you went to Belvedere? When did you kind of pick, like you thought, right, I'm the best here at Gaelic, or I don't know, when did you kind of make that decision?
I went to St Vincents National School in Glasnevin, which is a feeder school for Nafina in Mulvey Road, where Johnny Cooper's from. Yeah. So Johnny, older brother Mark, himself and Mark, when we were school pals together, I came to Gaelic football and hurling late in 6th class in school. We were more of a soccer family, and I ended up going up to Nafina for 2 seasons playing with Johnny. And when I went to Belvedere and I became pally with a couple of the guys there from St Vincents, Bobby Doyle's son Ronan, and with the soccer mentality, I guess, that we kind of had, the Nafina team I was on, we tended to get a hiding in hurling and football more often than not. I was playing Premier Division schoolboy soccer with Belvedere and then Wefton and Finglas as well. So we're playing at a high level there, where you're used to competing in All-Ireland schoolboy finals, to going to playing for Nafina, where you were getting spanked week out. So between the new friendships in Belvedere and probably the soccer mentality, we made a move up to St Vincents, where there was more of an opportunity, I guess, to win stuff. So they were the reasons I moved to St Vincents, and
And like, how did you play Dublin? Say what? What do you say?
Oh, sorry. How did I end up sticking with Gaelic? I managed rugby soccer. I played junior cup rugby and senior cup rugby with Belvedere.
Yeah.
So back row, and lucky enough to play in the old Lansdowne Road a few times, which is great fun. I played a bit of everything, and to be honest, to get out of school, get out of the classroom, and athletics, you name it. But I managed to keep all three going up until I dropped the hurling when I was 15, and then I kept everything else going till under 18s, and played Dublin development squads from under 13 all the way up. Couple of years minor with Dublin, 3 years under 21, and into the seniors then. So I played rugby with Old Belvedere up to under 20s level, and then I had to make a decision then at that stage. So the training for rugby was becoming, the strength and conditioning side of things was starting to improve, or increase rather, and I was struggling with my aerobic fitness from a GA point of view, to try and get around the pitch. And then I dropped the soccer then as well. So it was only after minor in 2003 with Dublin we bet Laois in the Leinster final, and then they got through the back door and they bet us in an All-Ireland final replay in 2003.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So there you have it.
And was there always George play centre back?
I was sent midfield, but stopped growing, I guess. And then I was sent forward and couldn't really score. And then Mickey Whelan put me back centre back. And my first game centre back, we played against Down, a minor challenge match up in Newry. We got a hiding, and I hadn't a clue what was going on. And Mickey would have coached me then in that role, and when to go, when to hold, that zonal defence type thing.
Yeah.
He would have influenced me on that. Pretty much learned kind of nearly everything from him. In the soccer, I played small bit midfield, a good bit centre half, and an awful lot left wing back, left back. So I find now that watching young lads coming through, those who have played soccer tend to have better positional sense and spatial awareness when they're in possession as well.
Is that where Ger, sorry to put across, is that where you kind of got your collective, as a centre back, you're known for being, the collective is more important than the individual. If your man scored a couple of points, but the team wins and you're better off for, is that coming from the soccer mentality there? Or is that Mickey Whelan's kind of coaching down to you?
I don't know, to be honest, and I think the role of centre back, playing soccer definitely helps being able to play that role. Is it a necessity? It's not, but it certainly does help. The what would you call it? The second thing you spoke about around, well, my man scored nothing, but we lost by 4. Well, I'm great. That mentality probably, I guess Mickey initially maybe with the club, and certainly Pat Gilroy when he came in with Dublin. I can only assume that they felt that mentality was there, and that was important to emphasise the collective and the team over the individual, whether it was in front of the goal.
Sorry, that's ahead of their time, Ger, was it?
I don't know. You know what? I'd imagine you'd have to ask them where they picked it up from, but I suppose the from a scoring point of view, some lads are naturally more gifted in shooting. However, if you find yourself as a defender in the right place to shoot, well, then you should be shooting as well. Yeah. But if you've made a long burst and run of the pitch as a defender, and there's a scoring forward beside you, well, then it would make sense for the team to give it a scoring forward. So it's about making the best decision for the team in terms of what's in front of you, And the same from a defensive point of view, if there's a 2-on-1 developing, well, then you got to go with the runner, the guy most dangerous to goal. And if that means conceding the points at the expense of a goal, well, then that's fine. But they were all things you spend time talking about as a team, as a group, and then that collective understanding then just kind of comes in, So if a Kevin Nolan from Kilmacud Crokes was covering me, and he has to cut in to pick up the centre forward after going past me, and he catches the centre forward, well, then the expectation would be that someone has gotten back to Kevin Nolan's man in the wing forward, and to pick him up. Yeah. And it's that sense of teamship, working for one another. That I guess I would have learned quite a bit from Pat and Pat Gilroy and Mickey Whelan,
Would you've obviously brought them up a couple of times, would they be the biggest influence during your kind of starting out?
Yeah, they would, in fairness, even playing with, I'd say Mickey was obviously manager of St Vincents going back to 2008. We won the Club All-Ireland. Pat Gilroy started full forward against the Rangers Croke Park. Pat was 37 or 38. But I remember Pat was always in my ear about, what are you doing playing the rugby and the soccer, concentrating the Gaelic. And I've no doubt that was Mickey influencing Pat to influence me. That my arse was too big for Gaelic football, and it was big enough for rugby probably, but I needed to make a decision, and you couldn't do everything. So there's all those little man management skills, I guess, that Pat would be excellent at, and Mickey, in his bluntness and honesty, was very refreshing, because he just told you Mickey would shoot from the hip,
And and we'll say obviously you were involved with Vincents and Dublin at their at their pomp, really. In terms of, I suppose, the common denominators, what did you see, from them two setups that you're kind of thinking now you're bringing into management, or what did you see from them two setups where, geez, that's a few reasons why we're successful there?
Yeah, well, I think I played under Peter Caffrey with Dublin. Started off with Peter. I suppose a couple of seasons as training fodder with Peter, doing your apprenticeship, and then 2 seasons under him properly, and then 3 or 4, I think 4 years with Pat, and then 3 years with Jim before the body gave up. But I learned different things from all 3 of them. I think the common denominator between all 3 was their love of Dublin football and Dublin GA, and their loyalty to players. I always felt, whether you're in the first 15 or otherwise, they were always loyal to you. They look after you. And that's something that I would always take with me, that of any guy that's playing for you or looking up to you for guidance, that if they're putting in the shifts, you got to take care of them and bring them on and off the field as best as you can. So that's the common denominator between all three management. From a coaching tactical side of things, probably Jim Gavin's way of playing in some ways is probably similar to Peter Caffrey's, more of a man-on-man kind of scenario. The difference between probably Jim and Pillar is Jim had outrageous quality and depth. Pillar didn't probably have as much. He had the same effort, all right. And then Pat, when he came in, he would have inherited Pillar's group and put a bit of a more of a defensive shape on us, more structurally sound. That took a couple of seasons to get us over the line. And then from that basis, that foundation, then he was able to build on the forward style of football. So it was a 3-year plan until we won the All-Irelands with Pat. And then we did a bit of a hangover year, losing to yourselves in the semi-final in 2012. And then when Jim came in, it was a different way of playing in terms of that kind of man-on-man style, which again was refreshing for players who were under Pat's tenureship. It was a new challenge, and lads enjoyed it, you know. So different styles, but all three lads incredibly loyal to the county and incredibly loyal to the player, you know.
So when Pat came in, Winger, was it 08, 09 or?
That was 2008, and yeah.
And when, like coming in from that, were you like I remember 06, you lost to Mayo, obviously that epic game, and then 07. Well, you had a low ebb when Pat came in, or
we're sorry. 07 we lost with Pillar. I think Tyrone beat us in the quarter final, maybe the All Ireland that year, you know. And fair, and Pillar's they were close a couple of times, losing to Armagh. One semi-final, losing to Mayo 06, up by a few points. So they were close, and sometimes you need a bit of luck, but you can't depend on it. And Pillar didn't get it, you know. But and that's just how it goes in that sport. But under Pacman, 2009, he really pushed us physically with the view of breaking you down mentally and seeing who would be able to withstand the demands of it. Some fellas dropped away, some fellas didn't.
Tell us about the morning sessions.
Well, see, I didn't mind the morning sessions ended because
you love a good morning session.
Yeah. With schools rugby, while I was probably late a lot of the time, even though I lived across the road from Belvedere, we were doing gym sessions in the morning from third year in school. So we were over probably once or twice a week doing your gym sessions before school at 6:30, 7 in the morning. So I actually didn't mind them, you know. I always enjoyed the. I'd rather train first thing in the morning than late at night, to be honest, you know. Then different people are different, you know.
Well, I certainly didn't enjoy the 6 o'clock sessions anyway, that's for sure.
It depends what you're used to. And then in Dublin, one of the biggest advantages we have, and obviously look, there's a few with the population being probably the main one, is the proximity of players to the training ground. Now it might be a bit of travel coming across the city at peak times, but if you're getting the early shift session done, you're avoiding the peak traffic. Fellas are sleeping in their own bed. You know, they're not 2 and 3 hours coming back from wherever, Ballyhonus or Castlebar. They're going in the body, like, you know. And
it's a fucking bend the whole stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you've done it yourself. So your recovery wise, your advantage through you know, living and working in the county, you know. And I know you can certainly see. You'd notice even with Galway, a lot more lads seem to be working there with Mayo, a lot more fellas working closer to home. That's all strategic development, and that comes from the management of the county board that to maximise our chances for success at the elite end, where the top 2 or 3 teams.
Sorry to cut across you. I'm still not sure about. I'm not sure about the Galway county board, but I think it's a concerted effort by the Mayo players now, Ger, that I like county board, to be honest with you. Maybe they've changed now, but they're not exactly very facilitating in terms of trying to get you a job. If you're looking for a job, I wouldn't, you know, no one ever reached out to me. Oh, do you want a job here in Mayo? No. Do you know what I mean? The reason I came to Dublin was I couldn't get a job in the west of Ireland, and and I've been here ever since because of that. So Maybe Dublin's more proactive.
Rural population, and isn't that what your man down in Kerry? What's the last names? The TDs there. Mikey Healy, Danny, they're all talking about that. And again, that's another advantage in Dublin, that the management, again, when certainly Pat came in, and even before they were Pillar, like I think Owen O'Gara, Paul Flynn, they were doing trades. Darren McConnelly, they were kind of working on trades, physically demanding jobs, which was counterproductive for elite performance. And there was again a strategic effort to find suitable employment for those lads, and also from a career development perspective with the GPA to enhance their careers and educational achievements then as well in the background. So, but you had to have a plan in place for that. It doesn't just happen, But that's something which Dublin would have done quite well.
So you're on about the development there, the three managers, Ger. Obviously, you stepped away in 15. I'd say an Achilles injury, was it? Your body was
Achilles, groin, hip. We such a good run with the club as you were part of it, and that I was getting away with. I was probably 6 out of 10 the body, and I was 6 out of 10 was good enough to get away with club football. But trying to mark, maybe Jack McCaffrey is a bad example because he'd skin anyone, but trying to mark most of the other lads, it was impossible because you were struggling and you're eating painkillers and anti-inflammatories, and then it takes you about a bloody hour to warm up, and then you're sore for 2 or 3 days and competition of the squad. So it became unenjoyable towards the end because you weren't able to actually, just express yourself even 80-90% of the time,
So I suppose you stepped away in 15, so obviously you lost your only goal in 14, and that was the kind of sea change as everyone kind of sees it with Dublin football in terms of adjusting to the opposition. And we're kind of half laughing about players are nearly half robotic now. Probably Dublin has a bit to do with that, have they?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, well, that 2014 game was the best game against Donegal I never played. Because I probably wouldn't have allowed myself to have been maybe pulled or dragged as much as what happened in that game. But in fairness to Jim, Gavin, and the management, they learned so much from it, and they it never happened again. Realistically, when there's tenure. The style. I think that the Donegal's packed defence in the All Ireland semi final in 2011 rather. That certainly changed the game. And then the better teams had to adapt to be able to play what was in front of them. And again, I think that's what Dublin did. They were able to play what was in front of them while keeping a +1 at the back more often than not, which meant they had some sort of defensive structure there,
But to me, Ger, right, and maybe it's just me here, but Dublin for me were the first team to really focus on the attacking side of the ball in terms of coaching your players. That development, did they get different? Jim played. I remember I told you I watched the 13 Ireland. Maybe it must have been last year sometime. And if you've seen that game, it's literally
lumping the ball.
Lumping the ball. It's alien to what football is now. Yeah. So I'm kind of interested here. Dublin obviously adjusted to that defensive structure they're up against. So did someone new come in terms of coaches, or did Jim devise a strategy in terms of that off season 14, or what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, there was just a lot of walkthroughs, I guess, and on the field of if you're faced with 2 or 3 extra backs, where is the space? What sort of movement patterns can you develop? Can you identify on the weak side? Is there a 1v1 or 2v2 or even whatever? Even is there an opportunity to expose the opposition there, and just being patient and moving the ball back and forth, but also moving players as well to ultimately you're from an attack point of view, you're trying to turn a defender around and try to have him defending running towards his own goal. and move him off his little kind of pivot, I guess. Try to force him to go with a player and create pockets of space. So it's just developing little moving patterns of play. Jason Sherlock would have come in 2015. I retired at the end of that year. I didn't play any football that year, competitive football, with the injuries, so I didn't get to take on much of Jason's coaching. His background in basketball would have been a huge factor in developing, what would you call it, an influence in how we coached the team versus the pack defense. Yeah. And so I can't give you a proper answer in terms of which one person decided to coach in a particular way. But what I can say from, I guess, a process-oriented perspective, Jim was quite good on, well, here's what we faced last week. This worked, that didn't work. So success leaves clues. How do you replicate that then in training to make it become habitual for players then, now in some ways we became highly efficient in front of the goal over the 6 in a row seasons, the 6 seasons. But some of the football was very boring and hard to watch, and some of our more instinctive, creative players were curtailed in expressing themselves. But that was for the sake of the team, to become more efficient in front of the sticks,
So obviously, as you said there, Dublin, at their pomp, or at your pomp, you had 2 15s really. Your second 15 could really challenge any other team in the country. Like,
you probably would have won Leinster second 15.
I probably probably would have, to be honest with you. How did you managing players? How did you see kind of? I know you're only there for a year, or you were there 3 years at Jim, but like, how did you see that? Like, yourself, I know myself. If the second 15, trying to keep them happy, and then the 5 maybe outside the squad or outside the 26, like that's the real tough bit. How did you see him manage that?
Again, it's probably a question someone will have to ask Jim, but I know
you were never outside the 15, right?
Yeah, down. I suppose I wasn't really. I got the curly finger on occasion if you had a bad game, which can happen. But generally speaking, I probably I started every championship match I was fit enough to start for Jim, So again, when the manager, when you're playing in the first 15, and the manager's great. If you're not, then the manager's a bollocks, and that just comes with the territory of being a manager. I think where a manager can be upfront and authentic with a player to say, well, listen, here's what you're doing well, and here's what you need to improve on. At the moment, Enda is ahead of you. Here's why he's ahead of you. It's his jersey.
Would he go through that? Would he actually go through that?
I don't know, but that's what I do. That's what I would
do.
But to be upfront with fellas, and so they can improve, Ultimately, you're trying to be the best 15. I think most management teams, probably agree on, 13, 14 players quick enough, and there's always those 1 or 2 positions there you need to have a bit more of a conversation about. But generally speaking, your best teams takes to the field,
I suppose Jim was lucky. I'm not going to say lucky in a way, but like in 13, he obviously, the under 21s, Jack McCaffrey's year was coming through, Paul Mannion was coming through, so there's a flood of youngsters coming through, and obviously as you're probably in your late 20s at that stage, you're looking at these youngsters coming through, and like, how did Jim kind of manage that? Did he throw the young lads in straight away, or did he, do you have to buy your time with them, or what way did you manage that?
No, he put them in now. I think Jack and Kieran would have come in, and possibly Paul Mannion,
Kieran,
in like Kieran Kenny and Davy Byrne actually under Pat Gilroy for last season. Anyway, I think they were all in 6th year in school, and the one thing I noticed about all the lads, and certainly Kieran and Jack, is they were just full of confidence in their own ability, and they weren't phased at all by becoming members of a senior setup, and they fitted right in straight away, and you knew straight away that wow, these lads definitely have what it takes, and it's only a matter of time that they were gonna get a run, which they obviously did. But no, Jim, one of the things I think Jim did quite well, and I think it's something that the again, those numbers 16 to 30 or 35 in the panel would have seen and witnessed is that he wasn't afraid to make a change where a change needs to be made. And regardless of a fella's profile or what he'd done in the past, he was looking at the numbers, looking at how a guy was moving. Again, physically, was he performing as well as he had? And if he wasn't, well, then the next man came in and got his opportunity. And he did replenish the squad, and he replenished the first 15 with one or two players every year, pretty much in every year, I think. He was very quick at learning, is what I would say, from his first year and certainly after the 2014 defeat to Donegal, he learned game to game very quickly, is what I would say,
So why you're obviously got into management. Why did you get into management? We say, you kind of, your first gig was at Carlow. Was Carlow your first gig?
I went down to Carlow and with Niall Crew. Niall managed me in Minute Sigerson.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah, great fella Niall. So I was delighted to get a call off Niall to learn. I learned quite a bit from Niall from the inter-county point of view. I have to say, it is different to club. So I picked up an awful lot from him now in terms of managing the bigger picture. While also doing a bit of coaching on the field with him, with Simon Ray and Victor Doyle, two Carlow lads, great fellas too. And then I took on Bray Emmett at the same time in Wicklow, from a management point of view, doing a bit of coaching there. So that was a good experience too. And I came out of both that club and that county having learned quite a bit. One of the things I did become to appreciate was how fortunate I was to be born and playing in St Vincents in Dublin, because some setups in other places, and Niall has done great work there now, but there's a lot of work in some of these counties that still needs to be done, just from a strategic planning point of view. And I know the new chairman, really probably third or fourth year now, Jim was chairman of the Leinster Council as well. Jim Bugler, he's doing great work there with Niall in the county board, trying to progress things underage. So that was a good experience. And why did I get into it? I obviously, a bit like yourself, had 7 years teaching done, secondary school. I'm comfortable in that environment. You're substituting teaching and learning with coaching and learning.
Yeah.
And it's something that I enjoy. When I took over the role from the late great Dave Billings in UCD, I'm very lucky that we were able to get funding then for another GPO in Josh Ward from Laois. We were able to build something quite strong in UCD, but UCD was quite, and still is, quite administrative in its role. So the opportunity to delve fully into coaching and management with the college teams, it's impossible to do. To be fair, despite one's best efforts, I'm ultimately advising management and helping to appoint people or get people in. That's kind of a big part of the role there. So I was missing that teaching environment, that classroom environment, and the opportunity, having done 5 years in UCD at that stage, I wanted to get hands-on again with a team before I became too stale,
Okay, so you're on about. Go on.
I'm going to plug in my Mac here. Can you pause that for a second? No,
we're live. Just plug it in there, Gers.
Just plug it in there. You hang on there for a second there, right?
Yeah. No, that's okay.
Have a look at the C image there. Look.
Yeah. The beauties of being live.
Yeah.
Come on.
We're back.
So you're on about the, obviously, being lucky, being born in the vicinity of St Vincents. Well, is it resources, Ger, with the weaker? I hate saying the weaker counties because it's probably a bit patronising, but I suppose
it's resources, probably tradition. Not used to winning at any level sometimes, and that creates just kind of, a revolving door or a repeat cycle of losing. And for me, what I would have seen in Carlow, and in Carlow, there was definitely 15, 18 extremely talented footballers who at times trained at an intensity and a quality that was Division 1 or close to Division 1 standard. But the ability to sustain and maintain that wasn't quite there because, well, I guess from a conditioning point of view, their training age of some of the players were at the latter stages of their career. And some of the younger guys coming through needed a lot more work to be able to be robust enough to manage the demands of serious inter-county football training. So what we had in Carlow and great S&C and physio team there as well, we weren't able to train them hard enough because they would have broken down. So the more naturally gifted fellas were too old, and the guys who needed a bit more work, you couldn't push them hard enough yet because they would have broken down, and there was only a shallow pool of players to work on. So the effort, the work you put into players from under 14 and 15 in development squads to get them to good habits for training, that's where a weaker county or Division 4 county needs to spend more money in investing in the right people to ensure that they can set up those programs, deliver them, but also assess them continually to ensure that targets are being met, so that when a player does come to, again, minor under 20 grade, that at the very least physically they're at an ability that can sustain high performance and high speed running for the duration of 60, 70 minutes. So that's what I would see in a lot of, my experience of Carlow is that from a skill level, there was fellas in Carlow who they were born in Dublin, would have played for Dublin, but they were born in Carlow, and very talented fellas, but just not a tradition of, I guess, winning down there. And lovely lads, really enjoyed it. Now I couldn't say enough about the lads down there and the bit of crack we had with Niall going down the road, and Simon, Ray and Victor. But just as a mountain of work to be done. And I know Niall was certainly, Jim Bulger, the new chairman, Jim came on board my second year of the 2 years with Niall, and there was a noticeable shift in the resources being made available and the efforts to try to change things strategically at county board level.
Well, that's good to hear. What in terms of now, Ger, you're with Moorfield now at the moment. Kildare club football, what kind of standard that? Obviously, look at from the, obviously it's only the first round of the league, but Kildare obviously it was a point in between themselves and Dublin. Is that gap closing? What's your opinion on that, or what kind of shape is Kildare club football in?
So my observations, right? I've seen Wicklow football. I've now seen Kildare football, and I've obviously played Dublin football. The speed at which the ball is moved in Dublin football is superior to Kildare football. The individual talent base in Dublin and Kildare, I wouldn't say there's a massive difference really, now I'm talking about club football. At county level, again, Dublin were blessed to have that cohort of Conor Callahan, Kieran, Cormac Costello, Paul Mannion. Like those fellas are once in a lifetime players who have all come at the one time. So at the inter-county level, quality wise, there would be a difference in natural qualities between Kildare and Dublin, which is people can see. And again, Kildare trying to close the gap, but club specific, and I don't see much difference between qualities that are there, other than the speed at which the ball is moved, the physical fitness that a Dublin club player has on average. Against the top teams, there's not a whole lot between them. To be fair, it's just, again, the speed of thought, the speed of movement, the influx of cultures, as you say. I'd never use that word, and I'm only joking with it. But the influence of higher quality players coming to Dublin, obviously being the capital for work, that has added greatly to the quality of football in Dublin as well at the moment.
So with, is it is that a coaching? Is that an underage thing in Kildare football? Do you think, like, you're saying the transition of the ball, like that's like, I would say I would have my, obviously Stephen Porcher would be on this with me a good bit, like we say, you look at Ulster football, like I said Nathan Mullins obviously was with Donegal for a year or two in 17, 18, and I actually texted him one day. I was like, I'm not trying to be smart here, but like, is it just ingrained into those teams not to hit the ball? Is it the way they train, or is the same in Kildare? You're saying they don't transition the ball as quickly. That must be an underage coaching thing, is it? Or am I just totally off there?
Yeah, there would be. Yeah, it's how fellas are coached. Ultimately, to move and pass the ball. There's like one style of football over another. For example, a kicking style of football over just a hand pass and only style of football, it doesn't mean that you're going to be more successful in maybe the ultimate goal or the ultimate result.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, if the ball is moved up the pitch quicker to the scoring zone, you give your forwards a better opportunity and more space to take fellas on and do what forwards do. From an enjoyment point of view, to kick a ball, strike a ball nice with your foot, even if it's just two fellas in the warm-ups kicking a few 30-yard passes, and even the tiny bit of hurling I played, and you talk to the out-and-out hurlers, when you catch the slitter lovely on your hurl, or you catch the ball lovely on your foot, there's a bit of satisfaction that comes from that,
Yeah.
I don't know how much satisfaction you get from hand passing the ball 5 yards. I don't know how much skill's involved in it either.
Massey used to love hand passing the ball.
Yeah. It's like I said this before, and I'm waiting for someone a bigger fish than me to pick it up in the media. I'd ban hand passed points over the bar. I'd ban pan goals. I'd ban all of them, and just you can only score.
Would you? Yeah. The pan goal is a nice team goal, though. Do you think?
Yeah, it is a nice team goal. Yeah, the fisted point is brutal.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I agree with you. But if you're coming in along the inline, I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to kick with your foot, so increase the difficulty level. That's just that would be a rule change. I would bring in the hand pass.
Yeah, it'd be more exciting. It'd be definitely more exciting.
It would. So no, it is a coaching thing, and the even say I'm into my second season with Moorfield. The effort is second to none. There's no difference to what fellas are putting in. From my experience in Dublin and the year and a bit so far at Moorfield, fellas are putting in the same shifts. It's just a manager's preference and style of football that he's trying to implement. But the general exposure to a higher paced game from underage up, I guess, in club football in Kildare isn't just as quick as it is in Dublin. And people might be listening saying, typical Dublin arrogance. It's not arrogance. You just have to look at the results in the club championships over the years. And even an ace in Port Arlington losing to Kim McCudd now over the last couple of seasons. Like, there's very, very, very gifted footballers in Port Arlington and Nice who would push to make a Dublin senior football in their county team. But because they're just not getting exposed to higher paced matches more regularly than they're getting in their home county, when they are playing against a decent Dublin club, it takes them a while to come up to terms with the pace of the ball, And by pace, I'm not talking about sprinting pace. I'm just talking about thinking, creativity. Yeah.
First instinct is to look up and see. And I look at my own teams in the past, especially under Horn, would definitely be solo the ball first, as in their first instinct, solo the ball first, and that. Well, I know it myself as a forward. Like, if you know out the field, well, I'm not gonna. There's no point running here for the next play, because he's definitely going to take a solo here. You know different players who are going to take a solo and who's going to kick the ball straight off the bat. You'd be one of those players in terms of transitioning quicker. But last question I'm going to ask you here in terms of the management stuff. You're obviously linked to the Monaghan job in the paper. Is that what happened there? Do you want to?
No, well, I know to be very respectful to Moorfield and the great chairman there, Mick Maloney, and if the lads are listening, they'll say I'm licking his arse here. But again, Moorfield, they're they're GA mad, football mad, and so it's I'm lucky to be spending a bit of time to anyone in the management game, and there's always numerous calls every year, whether you're involved with a team or not. A couple of calls from different counties that probably wouldn't excite you as much as a Division 1 team. There was an opportunity to sit down to talk to a couple of Division 1 teams, and they were just conversations. The home situation, as you know, we'd our third and fourth children in September as well with twins, so that influences one's life choices at the moment. So they were just conversations that were had, good conversations, but no decision ever made. But it's nice to have sat down and met a few new people from different counties while respectful of the commitment to Moorfield then as well for the couple of seasons, So
obviously in the future, Gers, that's something. Look at, I suppose you want to, like, as a player, you want to test yourself. A Division 1 team down the line, you would fancy.
You would, yeah. You'd have to, in fairness, yeah. That would interest you at some stage in the future, So it's yes, I would have that desire and ambition there to see what I might be able to do at that level. No more than playing club football, the desire to play senior in the county was always there, and that happened, thank God. And managing club football and really enjoying it, there's a desire there at some stage to, in 2 or 3 years' time to look at what might be an offer with a Division 1 or strong Division 2 team or that, So